Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers season is over. They've been eliminated by the Florida Panthers. They lose by a score of 2-1 in Game 6. And that's all she wrote. So what was overall a good season, a very good season for the Rangers. They win the President's Trophy. They sweep the Washington Capitals. They win in 6 games versus the Carolina Hurricanes, but Florida was the better team. There's just no way around it. And I want to keep it as best I can focused on this game and series and, looking at things, I guess, more in the past because I'm going to be planning to do an episode, sort of a wrap-up of the season at large and, sort of a post-mortem episode. So, but it's going to be hard to not kind of go into some tangents about future implications, but I'm going to try to keep that somewhat at a minimum because, again, I want to go into more detail, a little bit more in depth for a future episode. So I'm going to try to stick to this, but yeah, I wanted to, let that be known. But yeah, this really felt a lot like 2 seasons ago against the Lightning. Now, expectations were different. The opponents were different, both being, both from Florida. And the weird thing is, the Eastern Conference representative the last 5 seasons have come from Florida. Lightning in 2020, 21, 22, Panthers in 23 and 24. But you could just tell with that Lightning series, it was more like Game 3 was the true turning point. And because the Rangers really were playing very good hockey up until that point. And then it totally flipped. And like Tampa asserted themselves and they had the cup pedigree. They were going for a three-peat. And so the Rangers, it felt like they did kind of run out of gas after a 7-game series with the Penguins, a 7-game series with the Hurricanes. Overall, that one had a combination of it was really stinging in the fact that you could really almost taste it. I mean, it felt like they were so close, but so far at the same time. And it was just a crazy run that really exceeded all expectations. And, they staved off so many elimination games they won. It was a lot of fun. Stressful, but fun. This season, it seemed like they may have had the ingredients to go all the way. Not they didn't last time, but again, just a lot of similarities. Like that year, when they've been eliminated the last 3 seasons, Igor has been their best player in the Lightning series, in the Devils series last year, and in this Panthers series. No doubt about it. And so it kind of feels like the Lundqvist era, where the Rangers are wasting just prime goaltending, amazing goaltending. And, good enough to win it all, honestly. That what they're getting there. And while I'm at it, I should mention that Kevin Weeks reported that Benoit Allaire might take a little bit of a step back. It was kind of somewhat of a vague report, but I guess there's a world in which Benoit Allaire may not be back for the Rangers or maybe with a lesser role, but I hope that all works out because he has been the backbone coaching staff-wise of this Rangers team the last 2 decades. He has been a huge reason why the Rangers turned it around after the Dark Ages. Coming out of the lockout. So I hope that all works out there with the Rangers and Allaire. But look, lack of scoring. And I know that in some ways is obvious, right? Once you get this deep in the playoffs, and just the playoffs in general, even when you get eliminated, typically it's going to be for lack of scoring. But the Rangers seem to just take it to another level in thinking about the games in which they are eliminated. Here, Panarin scores a goal. The Rangers were down 2-0. We'll get into this game. But Panarin scores a goal with 1 minute and 40 seconds left, right? And a 6-on-5. Last year, the Rangers were shut out by the Devils in Game 7. And then 2 years ago against the Lightning, also a 2-1 game where Rangers never had the lead. Frank Vetrano tied it up. And then Steven Stamkos very soon thereafter gave the Lightning the lead in the 3rd period. So, look, it wasn't for a lack of effort. Not at all. Rangers, whereas the Devils series, you can question effort. Here, it wasn't that. It was not that. This Panthers series, They tried their hardest, but Florida was simply better in almost in every which way, really. Besides goaltending, they, they're playoff tested. They wanted to get back to the Stanley Cup Final, and they're going to be there. So nothing but respect towards the Florida Panthers. This is a really good team. The Rangers lost to a great team. I know that they don't have that pedigree that the Lightning had, so it doesn't feel that way. Make no mistake, this is an excellent Florida Panther team that has a very good chance of winning the Cup, whether it be against the Oilers or the Stars. So no shame in that, but still frustrating. And a lot of culprits. I guess more so, it's more of the players. It's the list of players that did well is a lot shorter than the ones that didn't. And so, praise on the series and the playoffs goes to Igor Shesterkin, Vincent Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere, Barclay Goodrow, but not a whole lot else. Not a whole lot else, to be honest with you. I thought Braden Schneider was decent in these playoffs. Not amazing, not horrible, but okay. And I'm trying to think who else. Adam Fox, we'll find out probably this week. And that will be also a good piece to the episode as well. I'm hoping to learn that information. So chances are I'll record that episode post-breakup day, whenever that is. But, yeah, Adam Fox, I think he should at least be commended. And look, we don't know for sure if, maybe somehow he isn't hurt, but I think he is. The offense wasn't there, but at least, he really did hold his own defensively, I gotta say. So, and what sucks is that he hasn't scored a playoff goal since Game 7 against Carolina. It's been a long time. It's almost 30 games of playoffs since he scored a goal. But I thought he played really well in that 2022 playoffs. He was one of the guys. When I was thinking about that list, it was also kind of short. And Igor, who got off to a rough start versus Pittsburgh, really found his game. I put Mika Zibanejad on a good list that year. While he was streaky within the playoffs, as a whole, I thought Zibanejad was really good. And this playoffs, he started out good, had a good Capital series. The beginning of the Carolina series was good, and then just dropped off. And so overall, a really, regular season and postseason, Mika Zibanejad just not great. Not great. And, there's nothing you can really do about that. He's under contract for 6 more seasons. He will be here. Nothing you can do on the Zibanejad front, but very disappointing. And I think among Ranger fans, if there's 2 or 3 players that, I'll say 2, but kind of 3. Oh, there's more than that. But in terms of the high-paid name players on this team, I think people are upset with Mika Zibanejad, and deservedly so. And then also Jacob Trouba, who I have been very anti-Trouba for a while now. Look, Game 3 versus Tampa, I'll never forget how he kind of single-handedly cost in that game. And Trouba, as predicted, he was a real reason why they lost the series. And it wasn't just him. But Trouba, on the first goal the Panthers scored in this game, just ridiculous. Trouba trying to hit Evan Rodriguez, goes out of position, doesn't even hit him successfully, and it sets up a little bit of an odd man situation, which leads to a Panther goal. Jacob Trouba, and I'll save this more for the next episode, but would love to find a way to get him off the roster. I just don't think it's going to happen. And so my concern with the Rangers is I don't know what real change you can make to truly improve the team based on the contract situation. The big move this year was going from Gallant to Laviolette. That was the big thing that they did. And it worked. It really did. But I don't know what what Chris Drury is going to do to really, and look, you don't want to change things drastically. I'm not saying that, but there's got to be some shakeup of real value. So yeah, Jacob Trouba, and then look, and Artemi Panarin again, he's just not a playoff performer. For as great as he is, and I give him so much credit for the regular season he had, and for a playoffs that the bar was set so low, it was an improvement. It was an improvement over the last two. I'll give him that, but not good enough. Still not good enough. And I felt as if Keandre Miller, rough playoffs for him. He's so inconsistent. Just did not like what I saw from him. And so, yeah, again, like, what does his future hold? I think it's as a Ranger. But a lot of questions on that, in terms of the defenseman. But we'll get into that more, again, in that next episode. But Rangers made some line changes. And look, I don't blame Laviolette for trying. So as far as who came in and who came out, it was Johnny Brodzinski in and Matt Rempe out. Not a surprise, considering Rempe only played 2 minutes and 30 seconds last game. And Brodzinski, look, like, that to me was the choice. That was the obvious choice. Blake Wheeler apparently was dealing with soreness, and I don't think he practiced in the morning skates, so I'm not even sure if he was an option, but it's just crazy how Blake Wheeler, like, if his career is done, which it might not be, I would even venture to guess that he'll probably give it a go. Not with, I wouldn't think with the Rangers, someone else probably. But for Wheeler, he plays that one game in Game 4 and takes a penalty that leads to the game-winning overtime goal. And look, that is where my mind goes as far as this series. Not that the Rangers deserve to be up 3-1, but that Mika Zibanejad turnover in overtime of Game 4 and leading to the Wheeler hook, leading to Trouba going out of position and Reinhart scoring. That, I think, is kind of the moment. And I kind of knew it when it happened, but I didn't know for sure, right? Because then if the Rangers had won Game 5 or won Game 6, then it's viewed differently. But that was kind of, results-wise, the turning point of this series. And so, yeah. But anyway, Brodzinski in, Rempe out. But it's more of the line changes that were made. Some pretty significant ones at that. So Wennberg moves up with Kreider and Zibanejad. And look, it didn't really make a positive impact. I'm not surprised by that. Doesn't matter who you put with Kreider and Zibanejad. It's not really going to do much. Of course, the Trocheck line's kept intact. What they did was Philip Hedl moved to center, which really is ideally where he would be, but Philip Hedl has just not been good. I feel kind of bad. I understand why he wanted to come back. In hindsight, it would have been best to have kind of left him on the shelf, health-wise and just effectiveness. But I was excited for him to come back. I mean, if you could have gotten like the Philip Hedl that we saw, for large stretches of last season or what you saw in the 2022 playoffs, that would have been a real good improvement. We didn't get that. So Hedl centered Goodrow and Kakko. So what's interesting about that is Goodrow moves up to the third line and goes to wing. But I didn't mind that because I think Goodrow is as effective as he's been at center. I kind of like Goodrow at wing. And the idea of Goodrow, moving into the top 9, he deserved it. So I saw why they did that. And then the fourth line was Brodzinski centering Cooley and Roslovic. Now, the one thing that you could have done differently, you could have maybe flipped Kakko and Roslovic. And the reason I say that is, if you remember, Cooley, Brodzinski, Kakko had some success this season. And so you could have done that. But in thinking about it, I guess just like it's a weird, to be fair, Goodrow, Hedl, Roslovic, it is a pretty weird, a weird fit. So I get it. But I admire the fact that they try to make those changes. But where they went wrong is and I knew they wouldn't do it, but a couple of things. On defense, way too much Jacob Trouba. I've been saying that for a while. But look, you're pigeonholed because the options are not great. Eric Gustafsson probably played his last game as a Ranger. And look, overall, good season by Eric Gustafsson, considering what the contract was. But that was a disaster. Gustafsson Trouba is a disaster. But you had no other choice because you didn't want to give Zach Jones a chance. And Chad Ruedel to a lesser degree. It's not so much about Ruedel. It's more Zach Jones. But, Ruedel was brought in. He has experience. He's not great. But the point is, they were healthy defensively. Obviously, Fox was banged up. But, it's good to have the depth. But I almost kind of wish that the depth was used. And then forwards-wise, it's just you would have loved to have seen Lafreniere in the first power play unit. But you knew it wasn't going to happen. That's going to be a very interesting thing for next year. Is what are they going to do to get him on there? I don't know that it's going to happen, but I'd like it to. Anyway, Rangers' first period was pretty decent and arguably was probably their best period of the game. And there were opportunities there. One that really comes to mind, I guess I'll get to it. At 3:56, Vincent Trocheck hooks Aaron Ekblad, and the Rangers kill it off. There was only 2 penalties in this game. That was one of them. At 11:30, Kyle Ogpozo interferes with Johnny Brodzinski. This is the one Ranger power play. And right before, as that penalty, there's a delayed penalty, and Jack Roslovic has a really good chance. Kind of an open net, on the right side, kind of an open net, but he shoots it high. Now, to be fair to him, the puck was bouncing. It wasn't an easy play. This isn't like one of those classic Ryan Strome fuck-ups, but still, for Roslovic, it's bury that, man. Bury that. He hadn't scored since, he hadn't had a goal since the Washington Capitals series. So then the Rangers power play doesn't score. And it was the only chance they got. That was very important. The fact that the Panthers essentially, they won the fucking special teams battle of the series, that's problematic for the Rangers. The Rangers have such good special teams. For the Panthers to have held their own as much as they did, it was a further issue. So we go towards the end of the first period. And as I alluded to before, Jacob Trouba with a massive fuck up. With 50 seconds left in the period, at 19:10, Sam Bennett scores his 6th goal of the playoffs from Evan Rodriguez. And initially, Eric Gustafsson, he tries to sky the puck up, and it's kept in by the Panthers. Eventually, it would clear the zone, but they come back in, and it's on the left side of the ice. It was close to an offside, but it was onside. It was correctly called. But Jacob Trouba tries to hit so Sam Bennett has the puck going in the zone, and Rodriguez is to the left of him. Trouba tries to take out Rodriguez, just misses, goes out of position. Bennett goes to Rodriguez. Rodriguez back to Bennett. Just a great slap shot. Perfectly placed. Nothing you could do. Gustafsson was defending, but nothing he could do there. And the Panthers take a 1-0 lead. Ridiculously bad play by Jacob Trouba. Where the guy goes out of position all the time. There's so many flaws to his game. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling how bad he is. And it felt like it just got worse and worse and worse over time. And the problem is, as much as I love Peter Laviolette, and I really think that he did a nice job this year. Look, we can critique him, and I'm doing a little bit of that, but the one thing that was an issue was just the insistence on using Jacob Trouba as much as he did. I'm not saying the other options were great, but just simply, hey, Braden Schneider's got his flaws too, but he should have gotten more of that time than Trouba, and it didn't happen. Trouba was the one that got more of the lion's share of opportunity. And that's just a terrible fuck-up. So the Panthers take a 1-0 lead. Second period, I would say the Panthers were the better team, but the Rangers kind of held their own. There was a really good chance by Zibanejad where it's a shot from the point, and it takes a really funky bounce off the boards, and Mika is in front, and the puck kind of hops over his stick. So very frustrating because Zibanejad was kind of due more than anyone. He ended up not scoring in the last 11 games of the playoffs. And for him to have scored there would have just, been huge for the team, and he couldn't do that. So really frustrating. We go to the third, Rangers down 1-0. And Panthers, they're 66-0-4 in the last 70 games when leading after 2. That's impressive. Very impressive. And 9:08 into the third period, Vladimir Tarasenko scores. I kept on saying, Tarasenko is going to score at some point. And sure enough, it ends up being the game-winning goal, as it turns out. It's his 3rd goal of the playoffs from Lundell and Luosterainen. And so that third line ends up producing some big goals for the Panthers, whereas the Ranger third line, which was mostly centered by Wenberg, but then in this game centered by Hedel, it just got worse and worse as the playoffs went on. It wasn't good. And Kakko was a big part of that. Kakko, have we seen his last game as a Ranger? I think it's certainly possible. Whereas before, I wouldn't have thought that, in previous seasons. This is the first time that I can say, yeah, if he's traded, I get it. I'm not saying I'm advocating for it, but I get it. But yeah, what happens here, though, was Panarin turns it over in the offensive zone. And we've seen that from Panarin in this playoffs, in this series, where a key Panarin turnover, and he turned the puck over a few times in this game, leads the Panthers going the other way and them scoring. So it was kind of, a play where Tarasenko, I think he beats Braden Schneider. Mika Zibanejad, he beat Schneider on it. So Miller and Schneider were on for this one. Keandre Miller turns the puck over as well. Keandre Miller turns the puck over, I believe, to Lundell. And so, Keandre had another bad turnover that led to a breakaway by Kachuk, I believe. He's a turnover machine. Keandre Miller, very, very disappointing. This was not a good playoffs for him. No way. So the Panthers take a turn to the Leon Tarasenko goal. And then at that point, it's like, you're done. However, Panarin, of course, I kind of figured this would happen. He scores a goal 6-on-5. At 18-20, his fifth goal of the playoffs from Trocheck and Fox. So 2 games in a row, Rangers down 2, score 6-on-5. This one, though, had more time left. Rangers called timeout, which was a smart decision. And they had some zone time for maybe 30, 40 seconds. But basically, the last 45 seconds to a minute, Rangers had no opportunities. Panthers were just chipping it out. No icings. And the Panthers win it 2-1 and eliminate the New York Rangers. So what was a really, really great season. Had a lot of positives, and I think as time goes on, we'll, think about those and view those in a better light. But this one stings, for the Rangers, again, they fall 2 wins short again in the final. And this has happened a lot. 2015, they fall a win short of going to the final. 2012, 2 wins short, and they were up 2-1 in that series as well. And look, 2014, not to take anything away from it, but I look back on that from a conference final standpoint, and look, because I was rooting for it, the fact that they played Montreal and not Boston was a nice break. I'm not even going to get into the fact that Carey Price got hurt. Because Tokarski held his own, even if Carey Price is in there, I don't think that swings the series. You got to at least acknowledge it, that it did happen. And obviously Price at the time was one of the best goalies in the league, but still, I'm just saying, if that had been the Bruins there, I don't know that we win that series. As much as I love that 2014 team, I don't know. But hey, that was then. That was 10 years ago. But, all the parallels, everyone hoping for that 94, the 30 years later, everything that was similar, just, it doesn't work like that. It's nice in theory, but it doesn't work like that. And the Rangers just weren't good enough to beat the Panthers, plain and simple. And so it'll be very interesting to see what is the plan moving forward. I'm not expecting crazy moves. Would I like to make some significant moves? Of course, I would. I just don't know if they have that ability to do so. But let's save that for another episode. See where things go. See what news comes out. And then reassess. And I think it'll be fun to, sort of break down the season that was. Talk about, some of the good things, some of the not so good things, and kind of look ahead to the future and seeing, what this outlook of this Ranger team looks like. But Florida Panthers get it done. Congrats to them. They are back to the Stanley Cup Final. They win 3 straight versus the Rangers. They win it in 6. They win Game 6 by a score of 2-1. And so what was a very fun 2024 New York Rangers season, unfortunately, it is now over.